Hello, my name is Grant Clausen. I'm going to be talking about the 3 Mile Island disaster that was located here in southeastern Pennsylvania in 1979 in March at 4 in the morning. The objectives for this presentation are going to be to understand how this event impacted the field going forward in the future, also to understand the circumstances that allowed an event like this to take place in the first place, and lastly to understand the significance that significant radiation exposure could have had on human health and the surrounding environment. This is the order that I'm going to be covering those topics, and here on the right is a picture of some of the aftermath of this event and trying to clean up and minimize the impact. So this event that occurred in southeastern Pennsylvania was a partial reactor meltdown that was sort of a perfect storm of a bunch of different interruptions in normal procedures. First, there was a power outage to the regulatory systems for the reactor that ultimately led to a chain of events that in figure 1 you can see to the right here led to great fluctuations in pressure within the reactor core, ultimately allowing the release of radioactive isotopes and other chemicals into the nearby areas. Here's a map of the area where the event occurred. You can see 3 Mile Island located in the center. The blue circle is the 5-mile radius surrounding the nuclear reactor that partially melted down. This radius was ordered to be given voluntary evacuations for all of the residents in the area. The purple circle is the 10-mile radius, which all of the residents within that area were advised to stay inside. So the complex array of circumstances that allowed this event to happen started with an electricity loss to the regulatory pumps that would pump water to cool the reactor. This water being absent from the reactor allowed the reactor to overheat, and then all of that excess energy created a great buildup in pressure as seen in figure 1. This pressure was ultimately relieved by workers at the plant, but however, among some other issues, the relief valve was left open and was stuck open, but the alarms and the other machinery that was indicating the status of this relief valve was providing false measurements to the workers at the plant, indicating that it was actually closed. So all of the workers there were misled on the status of the relief valve, and then ultimately were proceeding as if the valve was closed when it in reality was not. This false information allowed some other errors to occur within the nuclear reactor, which ultimately caused a subsequent buildup in pressure again, which ultimately released the radioactive isotopes into the nearby area. Here on the right in figure 3 is a rating system for different type of nuclear events. This was given a rating of 5, which is classified as an accident with wider consequences. So this is important because radiation can have really significant impacts on human health and also animal and plant health. Radiation can stay within soil and plants for many years and for even generations, contaminating those that consume it or are around it in the future. Acute radiation can result in severe nausea and vomiting and sometimes even death. And acute radiation exposure could come from an event like this where there's a very high level of radiation released, like famously in the event of Chernobyl in Russia. Other radiation exposure over a longer period of time can cause damage to the structure of DNA and other parts of cells in plants and animals, which in humans has been shown to greatly increase the risk of developing cancer. Here on the right in figure 4, you can see all of the different types of radiation that we are typically exposed to, and then the common sources of those radiations. So fortunately for everybody living in this area, it ended up not having very much of a health impact at all. There was about 1/6 of a chest x-rays worth of radiation released into the atmosphere, into the surrounding area, which in figure 5 to the right, you can see is not even a single unit of this metric measuring radiation, and is considerably less than a heart CT scan, which people frequently get and suffer little to no health consequences from, and is astronomically lower than a similar accident that happened in Fukushima regarding a nuclear reactor. Over 10 different organizations looked into this matter, and they all came to the same conclusions about the low levels of radiation released into the surrounding area. There has been no impact on human, animal, or plant life in the area that has been documented. In summary, there was a complex set of conditions, a perfect storm, so to speak, that allowed this event to happen. Fortunately, this event and its low levels of impacts led to a great initiative in changing protective measures for nuclear power plants like this, and because of that, this has remained still the biggest nuclear event in domestic U.S. history, resulting in 0 fatalities. Here are the works cited for the presentation. Thank you for your time.